Good evening, everyone. My name is Patty Hegwood, and I am here to welcome you to our annual blessing in this most lovely, lovely, and sacred environment. We have lots of lovely folks at home, and we also have candles over here if you'd like a candle or like to go light a candle in remembrance of one of your loved ones. Folks at home, I encourage you to do the same. If you have a candle you'd like to light, join us in the ceremony. We're all together on this. And I see a lot of folks out here that definitely needed this. And I want you to know that we're here together. And how lovely is that to be surrounded by so many like-minded individuals that can understand your pain. And perhaps today you can find a bit of a release and a bit of comfort in your heart. So it is my absolute honor and privilege to introduce one of our co-founders, Ann Mejia.
Thanks, Patty. Hello, I think I met most of you earlier today and mentioned Angels Landing to you at that time. Isn't it a really precious place right here in the canyon? Really beautiful. So I wanted to share a little history with you about how we came to where we have blessings for the animals. Angels Rest was first created in the very early years. As you know, we came here in 1984. We brought hundreds of animals here with us when we came. And over time, some of those precious lives would pass on. And our caregivers, some of whom are with me on the stage here and will be speaking with you, some of whom you have met over the years of coming and volunteering, become very, very attached to every animal they care for. And that has been the way it has been from the very beginning when we first started here with just Faith and Diana and a few of the founders that were taking care of the animals themselves. And this relationship we have with the animals here is as intimate and as loving and as caring as the animals we each have in our own homes, because this is a home. They are in that embrace that's the same as our own animals by the caregivers. So when they started to pass, we realized that we needed to have a very, very special place to tuck them in, a place to honor them, a place that is safe, a place that is beautiful, and a place that would be protected forever. And that was where we found the location we now have called Angels Rest. And after we began placing them there, let me back up a minute. Paul Eckhoff, one of our co-founders, designed the space that we have for Angels Rest. And he asked me in the early beginning of designing that to help him with it, which was a real honor. He has now passed on. He was the architect for many of our early buildings here. So I was really honored to be involved in that. And we started to really enjoy that place where we were tucking them in and just felt this incredible surrounding of wings around it. We called it Angels Rest because the little ones that are placed there are angels, and the angels are protecting them. So when we began to place them there, we also began to hang wind chimes to honor them or other members of our families, our animals that have passed away. And when we started to place animals there with the wind chimes hanging, it would be a very calm day, like right now. Not a leaf is fluttering, right? Nothing is tingling in the breeze. There is no breeze. But when we placed and tucked a little one in, the wind chimes would start to talk. And it was like they were welcoming them. And it's like the wings of angels were fluttering through the wind chimes. And as we began to expand Angel's Rest, people were touching our hearts with a request to have their special, precious ones placed there as well to be protected and honored and loved and cherished. So we began to receive your sweet, precious little ones. And I know some of you have quite a few placed here already. And I think someone just had a few placed here today to join the other 3, now 5 at Angel's Rest. So we welcome that to happen. And as that began to grow, we realized that that space is kind of a finite space. And we needed to look for another area for the animals that are part of our life here at the sanctuary that we're passing on. So up near the gratitude garden at the top, we have Angels Overlook. That's what that one is for. And the one down here is for all of you to have your precious ones placed. Alongside, when you go south of the main area of Angel's Rest, we have a little area called Angel's Nest. And that is for the little ones that make nests. It could be birds, it could be mice, it could be any little people that make nests, and that's where they're tucked in. When you walk into Angel's Rest, there's a beautiful gate that was designed by Cyrus. So the whole place has this really tender, cherishing, intimate attending. And the person that is doing that so beautifully, that I feel so blessed to know is there every day, is Josh. You may have met him in placing one of your little ones there. You will meet him in just a minute. Josh has a particular presence that is so gentle, and he makes everything about you and the animals and gives that incredible honoring in such a beautiful way that I am really, really touched, moved, and grateful that he is in that role for the animals and tucking them in. So how did we come to have the blessing? Well, as I mentioned, staff are very, very, very attached to these precious ones, right, guys? Yeah. And so Faith and I were talking about how do we support that burden that the staff feel in the release of these guys after taking care of them for so long. And sometimes, like you, we've had to decide now is the time to help them over the Rainbow Bridge. Sometimes they've done that on their own. Either way, it's still a lot to carry because they are with that animal every day, and so many of them are passing on as they're caring for animals in the area they work. We decided to have a blessing every month for the animals, and we do that at Angel's Rest. And anybody who's here is welcome to join the blessing. This blessing once a year, as we come to autumn in the year, in the calendar, in the sanctuary, we come to that time where we're doing that tucking in ceremony for the year and really honoring the ones that we want to give that special recognition to at this time. So that's why we have this blessing in the fall. And we are sharing it with other people that are not able to be here. But I am so glad that you are able to be here and you've made this journey to come here, to be here now. And we have so much to share together as we're doing the blessing right now. And I hope that it lifts your hearts. It lifts your spirit and it helps you to feel that they are traveling on the wings, that they are lifted up, that they are part of something greater beyond anything we know and understand. When I think of the Webb telescope and the pictures it gives us, I see them out there in the great universe beyond anything we can conceive. And they are just lifted out of this life where there could be suffering and free of all of that. So think of that joy of them being out there and watching and just sending their love back because they love you. I'm now going to pass this on to this most wonderful being that I love dearly, and I'm grateful to have taken care of all these special lives. I'd like to introduce Josh, who is our guardian of Angel's Rest.
Well, thank you for those kind words, Anne. I appreciate that. Again, my name is Josh. I'm the manager of Angel's Rest. And, our department, we deal with our animals, our loved ones, our pets. And, we offer so many things, and closure is definitely one of them. And we have a very small, tight-knit department. Any kind of change, we feel it instantly. And this year was, very hard for us, and that we've lost people that were directly connected to Angel's Rest. Earlier this year, we lost Dave Abrams, Mr. Dave, I always called him. And he was my mentor, as well as him and Kurt, as when I first came here. I knew very little about best friends, procedures, all that. And me and Mr. Dave would be in our old Ford truck going up and down the road. And we were close. We were like Tango and Cash. We were just everywhere we went, all together. And he showed me everything, really, so much about this. And, in a Native community, our elders mean more than anything. They teach you everything that they've already done. They've already gone down that road, that journey you're about to take. They've already gone down there. He knew what I was going to do and what I was going to, possibly become. So he showed me all those important things and what it meant and what this position really meant and what it meant to all the members of Best Friends. So, earlier when, he had been, we worked for about, a couple of years straight. And, then he finally retired, for the third time in his life, I'm going to retire. And then, he went home and we've been on vacations, and I would talk to him every, now and then. He would tell me about his trips, and he'd be working out. I'll say he's like the new Jack Palance, he was just he was awesome. And we did a lot of things together, outside of work too. We went to lunch and all that. And so we kept that relationship strong. So when he, did pass away earlier this year, not only did I have that loss, but Angel's Rest had that loss with all the stories and memories. And so I hope to always continue on all those traditions that we do now. A lot of them started, with Mr. Dave, as far as fine little ones that just made the difference. And I'll definitely continue that on, and we'll never forget them. And, speaking of elders, we also lost of course, Faith Maloney, one of the founders here, co-founders of Best Friends. And again, every month, we had that blessing. And it was always, but you never just got the blessing out of Faith. You got stories, you got all the history and different names. And she remembered certain sites for decades ago. And I don't know how she did it, but she did. And I would go back and then I would remember that story. So at least, I wasn't physically there, but just knowing about that. And sometimes people would ask, hey, what happened with this little guy? I'm like, oh, hey, that's, Faith told me this so long ago. And you can always get a story easily out of Faith. We were at the village or whatever, even if she had a special coat, she would tell you the story about the special coat she had on. And it was easy for her to put a smile on your face. It really was. And that's something that I'll never forget. And also her traditions that she brought on. And so many because of the blessing that we do now is, so many of those are connected to Faith. So she will also be greatly remembered and just irreplaceable. Definitely. Another loss that we had, unfortunately, was Joan Dunn, a co-worker of mine, a caretaker of Angel's Rest. And, you never want to go to work with a bunch of people who are exactly like you. That's boring. You know, you want to mix it up a little bit. You know, if you're up, if someone's down, like it just kind of mixes it up. You don't want to look in the mirror when it comes to coworkers. And a lot of times you got that from Joan. You know, I sometimes, I'd be feeling down, but she would have her stories and she'd be up giving you a 9 or 10 all day long. And so it kind of, it rubbed off on you, and you really wanted to kind of hit that level too, like how Joan hit. And she gave all she had to Angel's Rest and the Overlook. She had her special spot that she has at the Overlook, but she gave all she had. She really did. And she had her dogs that she loved more than anything. And one of her dogs, Bob, that she used to bring to work early on in her career here. And, he passed away and he got placed up there. And I think that first loss, really showed her the importance of the Overlook and Angel's Rest. And it becomes more than just a job. I have a little guy up there placed myself named Prince. And so it becomes more than that, it becomes a labor of love because your loved one's up there. And so you want the best, obviously, for your loved ones. And so it makes a big difference. And so when we lost Joan earlier, unexpectedly this year, it hit hard. Because like I said, we are such a small department. Any change makes the world a difference. And so, we hope to continue on. Her memory, she'll always have her special spot up there, the Overlook. Every time I see it, guarantee I'm always going to think of Joan and her dogs and what she meant and what all this, meant to her. So I just wanted to say, that they will all these members and loved ones of Angel's Rest and the Overlook will be remembered. And at this point, I'd like to introduce one of our co-founders, Cyrus.
Thanks, Josh. So I'd like to lead us in a brief meditation of memory for the animals that we've lost. So sit comfortably with your back erect and feet on the ground, and just close your eyes. We want to start by relaxing all throughout our body. So just scan through the body and feel where there might be any tension or tightness. Starting up at the top of your head, neck, shoulders, back, mid-back, lower back, all the way down your legs, down to your toes. Just let everything relax. Losing an animal companion is difficult. A lot of strong emotions arise when we think about never seeing them again. We suffer. But we can keep them alive in our hearts by feeling their unconditional love. Right now, bring to mind your lost companion animal and feel the love that they gave you, this unconditional love. See this love coming from them to you, and visualize it as a stream of golden light coming directly into your heart. Just bask in their love for you until you're overflowing with feelings of peace, security, and happiness. This is their gift to you. Now expand your awareness to include all people who might have recently lost a loving companion animal. And share this love that you're feeling with them. Send them feelings of peace, security, and happiness. You can return to these feelings of love anytime. You can keep the memory of your lost companion alive in your heart through their unconditional love. Sometimes I long for days like yesterday, when life was simple still, when all my dreams were brightly colored then, and every one of them was filled with hopes and aspirations. And when I woke without a sound to the magic of the morning, I was standing on holy ground. But now my dreams are from a troubled time, and life's a battle zone, where streets and highways follow faded lines, where rivers used to flow, and from every drop of water a city now has grown. Seems like everyone's forgotten. We're all standing on holy ground. Holy ground. Holy ground. Holy ground. Holy ground. Everywhere and all around, we're all standing on holy ground. I went out to the open desert land, empty as the sky. Stood on top of sacred mountain there, watched an eagle fly over ghost of ancient ocean, and on her wings I heard the sound of a voice that I'd forgotten. Said, I'm standing on holy ground. Holy ground. Holy ground. Holy ground. Holy ground. Everywhere it's holy ground. We're all standing on holy ground. We're all standing on holy ground. We're all standing on holy ground. Thank you.
There's so many days that I feel like I'm the luckiest person in the world to have come to such a beautiful place, but to also know such fine people like Ann and Cyrus and Josh. As I listen to Ann talk about all of the particular aspects of honoring the animals, that's how she lives her life every single day. It's all in the details. And to listen to Josh and how much he loves everyone around him and how they work so closely together and all the loss that we have clearly had to move through in a very short period of time. And I think everyone here can identify with that. These have been some tough times. And I think we have to give ourselves a wide berth to be ourselves authentically and feel the feels. It's okay. It really is. I'm looking at you. It's okay, darling. Feel the feels. You're in good company. And that's where I think I'm the luckiest person in the world. Because we're surrounded by animal lovers, our folks who are at home right now joining in, and all you lovely people here. It just warms my heart so completely to know that I'm not alone. That's the huge part here, right? We're not alone. We have each other. The animals that come to Best Friends come in a variety of ways and means and conditions. Some are behaviorally or medically challenged. Some are in an overburdened shelter, and we were able to help relieve some of that burden and get them out of harm's way. And that's super important to us, as you know. And I know it's important to you as well. And when we bring them in here, this is a home, or as we call it, home for now. And we try to help them get whatever they need in order to get into their next home so that we can make room to rescue more and to get more of these little guys out of harm's way. And it's really interesting that we as people, we can't help it. Sometimes we look at an animal with a disability and we think, oh my gosh, how can they even live like that? But they don't know it. They don't know they have 3 legs. They don't know they're missing all their feathers, right? They know that they've found a place where there are people who are meeting them right where they are, taking them into their loving hands, their arms, and telling them everything is going to be okay. You're safe now. You're with us. And when we help you through whatever hurdle that is, we're going to find you the best possible home. And I also want to talk to you just a little bit about bravery. Every person here today is brave. Because anytime you love someone, an animal, a person, we call them animals, non-human animals, right? We're the human animal. But anytime you love something that death can touch, that makes you brave. Because you know that at some point you might have to say goodbye. So count yourselves as one of the few and the brave who extend your heart and give a piece of it away each time you say goodbye. Now I'm going to talk about a group of some very, very special people who are so near and dear to my heart, and that is our caregivers. because our caregivers live this every single day. They not only come to work knowing that they have a whole extended family to care for, they also have animals at home. And I think how big and how wide and how robust are those hearts that can open up to so many. They have my heart every day. And if there's anything that I can do for them to make their lives better, I do it. And I totally respect and love each and every one of them and what they give to the animals every day. So I'm going to relinquish the mic, and you're going to hear from some of our caregivers and some of the stories that they have to tell. Thank you so much for being here with us today.
Hi, everybody. I'm Brianna, and this is Lauren, and we work up at Wild Friends. And this year, we're remembering Prongs and Ginny the mice, Rosemary the rat, Samantha and Charlotte the hens, Ron Swainson the hawk, Peep the chicken, Suvali the barn owl, Eros the leopard gecko, Forrest the jackrabbit, King, Max, Valiant, and Mike the pigeons, Nanook the mink, and Annabelle the crow. This year at Wild Friends, we lost some pretty big ones, so we wanted to tell you about a couple of them. Starting with Suvali, the barn owl. Suvali was a permanent resident here at Wild Friends, known as an ambassador. She was non-releasable because she had a non-repairable wing injury as the result of being hit by a car. And for 15 years, Suvali taught people how common that is, how often birds are right by the side of the road. And I am so comforted at the thought of how many people now, when they go drive, look on the sides of the road for birds, and how many lives she probably saved just by people meeting her and knowing her message. In a similar vein, I also want to remember Annabelle. If you've been to Wild Friends ever, you've probably met Annabelle. She was a crow, and she was here for 22 years. Annabelle was a permanent resident here with us because she was raised by people without a permit. And by the time they did surrender her to Wild Friends, she no longer was able to survive in the wild. So for all that time, she taught people how important it was to always call your rehabilitator. And in the same way that Suvali saved lives, I can only imagine how many animals Annabelle saved by people knowing her story and knowing they had resources so that what happened to her didn't have to happen to anyone else. She was a wickedly intelligent animal, so much smarter than me. And she was never, ever a pet, but she was a friend.
I'm going to talk about Forrest, our jackrabbit. He was also an educational ambassador. He was with us for about 10 years, which is a really long lifespan for a jackrabbit. They are very high-stress species, so they don't do well in captivity. But he had been kept as a pet, possibly fed the wrong food or something as a baby that kind of caused him to not have that stress response. So he wasn't really afraid of us, so he lived a very long life. And he also spread a good message about not keeping wildlife, and his message was very important in saving other animals as well. And he was also a very dear friend. He was a lot of fun. He had a lot of personality. And speaking of personality, we're going to talk about Peep. She was very, very special to us. She came in looking like this. She was a crossbill, so she had to be tube fed her entire life. And I don't think we've ever fought harder for any animal to make it. But this girl, we did multiple surgeries and things to kind of try to correct her beak. But she thought she was one of us. She lived with us from the time, like I said, she was this big. We would take her home, and my best memories of working at Wild Friends are of Peep, because she just had so much personality. She was just so funny. I just remember her sitting on my shoulder and just constantly peeping. And I was talking to my mom on the phone, and she's like, "You have to call me back when that thing's asleep. I can't hear a word you're saying." And so my mom was kind of the one that named her Peep. Her original name was Greg. So we changed it to Peep because that was cute. I sent a video to my mom later that night. She was asleep in my arms and she was still peeping. She would do this little snore. She'd go, peep, 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 peep. So she was absolutely perfect. She finally got to the point where that crossbill was a little bit too much for her, and we had to make the decision. She was no longer having a quality of life, and that was one of the hardest calls that we have had to make at Wild Friends since I've been there. I haven't been there long, but she was a very, very special friend. All of them are very special in their way. If you guys have known anything about Wild Friends in the last 6 months, you've heard about Nanook, our mink. He came in and was only with us for a little while. He was an older kid and we didn't realize quite how old he was. But sometimes we're just a safe place for them to land and spend the last years of their life or the last few months of their life. And he had escaped from a fur farm. So we gave him the best possible last few months that we could have. And he was a very happy boy. So.
Hi, everyone. My name's Nikki. I'm a caregiver at Cat World. And while my list is long, so unfortunately I'm unable to tell stories of everyone because we would be here till the sun goes down. But I'm very honored to be here to be able to present the names of the cats that have crossed within this last year. So we have Jace, we have Georgette, Ariel, Paige, Branford, Bailey, Iggy, Kowalski, Miles, Marlene, Malala, Helena, Tuna, Pork Chop, Macaroni, Adelie, Duff, Sheldon, Journey, Blake, Bolin, Shaggy, Baby Gray, Rapunzel, Reese, Madison Rose, French Onion, Dex, Dory, Veedy, Lamonite, Tom, Lemongrass, Legolas, Mercury, Erica, Mr. Handsome, Dola, Keebler, Q, John Deere, Maple, Gaudy, Stevie, Potato, Puri, David, Bayou, Snapple, Tinsel, also known as Tinny Winnie Chicken Dinny, Kipu, Zeke, Mallory, Gabby, Churro, Murphman, Vidya, Penny, Misty Blue, Charger, Paul McCartney, Petey, Miss Stubbs, Michaela, Katsy Klein, Leopold, Chippy, Seeley, Proteus, Ambrosia, Elmer Fudd, Kadeth and Sabazian, Pizzazz, Dogwood, Cottonwood, Starsky, Glendora, Roswell, Lolita, Larissa, Grover, and DJ, Widge, Romania, Toaster Strudel, Crosby, Bates, Vignales, Radar, Van Gogh, Little Benton, Popcorn, Red Vines, Milk Duds, Swedish Fish, Norman, Little One, Hargrove, Parmer, Doyle, 11, Joan, Sunshine's Litter of Kittens, Veruca, Herschel, Globe, Linthart, Pluto, Seneca, Scarab, Amarantha, Valencia, Britt, Caleb, Green, Stein, Asimov, Timberwolf, White Bat, Clooney, Early, Jenna, Dwayne, Carson, Happy, Bumblebee, Meadow, Carabiner, Abner, Jackie, Zippy, Giselle, Bizduka, Toffee, Latvia, Pretty Boy, Garrus, Bernard, Baloo, Kipnook, Slidell, Luke Bryan, Eilish's Litter of Kittens, and Henry Thomas. I work in Hope House, which is the intake building, so a lot of these kids I got to name, and I'm so thankful that I was able to meet the majority of them, and I'm so thankful that we got to be their last step, that they got to experience love, if only for a little bit. So thank you all so much for coming.
Hello, my name is Candace. I am a caregiver at the Bunny House, and I'm here today to honor all of the sweet bunnies that we have lost over the past year. We have Bun Bun, Annie, Wednesday, Twix, Adam, Capone, Amy, and Aspen. And I just want to talk about Adam really briefly. He was only with us for a couple of months, and he was the sweetest, most grateful, most easygoing rabbit. Most rabbits don't really like when humans come up and give them a big old smooch on the forehead, but Adam loved it. And it was a highlight of all the caregivers' days to go give him a treat and a smooch. And he came here with a lot of injuries and issues, and unfortunately he was with us for just a brief time, but we're very grateful that we were able to know him and to love him and to just spend the last part of his life with him. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Jess, and I work in Dogtown. And I'd like to read the names of the dogs who crossed this year. Hercules Mulligan, Reese, Cody, Kringle, Rhodey, Angel, Penguin, Dax, Claire, Delaney, Bones, Bandit, Brian Griffin, Sherman, Peak, Tarleton, Fred, Medeski, John Butler, Revolution, Primus, Adriana, Furio, Meadow, Charmaine, Jackie Jr., Polly, Artie, Marshmallow, and her puppies, Gummy Bear, Jelly Bean, Licorice, Lollipop, Taffy, and Tootsie Roll, Clara, Rainbow and Prism, Thompson, Merlot, Eliza Thornberry, Otto Rocket, Crumb, Regina Rocket, BB Bluff, Tippy Dink, Ripa, Kimmel, Clarkson, Gifford, Banks, Latifa, Blair, Huey, Kurt Russell, Callie, Larkin, Kahir, and Lurkan, Sheba, Milo, Lakota, Crump, Kirby, Hugh, Tootsie, Sandy, Rhino, Hadley, Phineas, Ronan, Kimber, Medlin, Max, Marigold, and Johnny. Approximately 13 of these dogs lived almost their entire lives with us in Dogtown. We lost a lot of what we like to call Dogtown legends this year. Some of these dogs were with us for only 24 hours or less, like Blair and Kringle. And I like to think that we were able to give them a safe place to land and some love and care and help them peacefully cross without any suffering. But for some of our Dogtown legends, it was a very tough year. And I'd like to talk about 3 of the dogs who I consider 3 of my closest friends in the time I've been here at Dogtown. Just last month, we lost Max. Max came to us many years ago. He lived almost his entire life here in Dogtown after coming from Southern California. He was a quirky guy, to say the least, but he was friendly, affectionate, and so much fun. He was full of love and joy. He needed to meet people outside of his living space, and he didn't like to be surprised. And he really thrived on routine. But once he knew you and trusted you, you had a best friend for life. I consider myself lucky that I had the privilege to know Max and to love Max. He would greet us every morning in the kitchen, even if it was dark out, even if we were feeling sleepy. When we woke up that day and, came into work and it was still dark, Max would be there to greet us because he lived in the Angels kitchen at Angels Lodges. So Max didn't always live in the kitchen. But every place we tried to have him live, he would escape and return to the Angel's kitchen. There were many radio calls back in the day. Angels, Max is waiting on your golf cart out front. And he had escaped again. So we can laugh now because it was his thing to do and he was always safe and he always came back to the kitchen. So finally we relented and let him live there. And that became, Max's domain, where he liked to keep us in check, make sure we were feeding everyone on schedule. He either was a super picky eater or he was a vacuum cleaner cleaning up every crumb during food prep. You never knew what you were going to get. We spent a lot of time and effort getting delicious things at the local grocery store for him so he could take his medications. But he was always interested in what other dogs might have been eating, even though he always got the best food. He liked a routine. He loved his walks. He would definitely let you know if somebody was up at Angel's Lodges that maybe he thought shouldn't have been there, or if there was a dog up there that shouldn't have been there, or if things were out of routine, he would let you know. And he definitely would let you know if there were deer up there, because one of his favorite things was to try to chase deer. While he would never be off leash, he made lots of attempts. And even in his older days when he couldn't get around as well, he still would give it a really good effort to chase those deer. So Max left a big hole in our hearts and we really miss him. He basically was the essence of the Angel's Kitchen. So it's a bit different up there now and he'll be with us for a very long time. Another friend of mine that I like to call he was my oldest friend in Dogtown, is Milo. Milo came to Dogtown just a couple months before I did, and he came to us from Page, Arizona, from a small rescue group there. He had some degenerative joint disease and a problematic shoulder from the age of 2, and that was kind of complicated for that rescue to handle, so he came to us, and he always had some ongoing medical involving that arthritis, but he never let it get him down. Milo was a little brindle cattle dog with a little nub and tail and big pointy ears. And he thought he was like the biggest dog around and had a little strut that he liked to do. He loved his people. He loved Nylabones, and the tinier, the better. He had a little hoard of them that he liked to keep. And he loved to dig holes. Even when his arthritis was really bad, one of his favorite things was to dig holes. And I think he was always trying to impress his caregivers to see who could make the biggest hole. And he wanted it to be him. Milo loved golf cart rides. He was super snuggly on them. And he preferred doing his own thing on walks. So if he felt like doing what you were doing, he would go along. And if he didn't, he'd say, no, thanks, I'd rather do something else. How about we go this other way? Or how about we go to the indoor agility area? And he would try to convince you that that was a better idea. He loved car rides. He was my lunch buddy for a long time. And he really liked to go through the drive-thru at Wendy's because he knew we'd get fries. So I'm so glad Milo lived most of his life as a single dog. And in the last few months of his life, he was able to move over to Old Friends and get super spoiled over there, meet some new volunteers. He had not always been a volunteer-friendly dog, so he got to experience that. And I'm thankful that I've known him, or that I had the opportunity to know him. The last dog I'll talk about, because I could talk about some of these dogs all night, is Fred. Fred was the first dog I met here that required a lot of work. He really made you work for it. It took me about 3 weeks to be his friend, 5 days a week, every day, doing stuff multiple times a day. He did not trust easily. He came to us from another rescue that was shutting down, but he had some not so great things happen to him in his past, and so he was mistrustful. And he made me work for it, and it was totally worth it. At first, I used to joke and say he only likes me because I have the hot dogs. And then I said, but I don't care. He still likes me. So we began our friendship many years ago in 2017 and had remained friends ever since. Fred was selective with some of the people that he trusted. He liked some dogs and didn't like others, but he did really enjoy having a companion to live with, at least 1 or 2 other dogs to live with. Some of my favorite memories of him are going to the dog park. He loved going to the dog park with his runmate, and we would just hang out over lunch hour, relax, explore the dog park, but also just hang out on the bench there and snuggle. That was one of the things he really liked to do. He really loved car rides. And even though he was really nervous of new places, if he was with somebody he trusted, he would do his best and just try it out because he was with someone he knew he could count on. So I love taking him on car rides to explore new places, usually where there wouldn't be a lot of people, because that wasn't really his thing. So he was an amazing dog. Some people would laugh if I said he was a gentle giant, but he really was to the people that he knew and trusted and were in his inner circle. He was a huge dog with a huge heart, and he really found his place here because we were his home, just like we were for Milo and for Max, who all lived their lives here, pretty much their entire lives here. So thank you for coming tonight and for helping me honor the dogs in Dogtown who've crossed this year. I really appreciate it.
Hi, I'm Chris. I work in horses, pigs, and goats. So in Horsehaven, we had Leopold the cat, Fiero, Roy, Asia, Dudley the donkey, Hollywood, Ophelia, Juliet. In Piggy Paradise, we had Diesel. And in goats, we had Billy and Aries. I picked about 4 of the animals that I'm going to talk a little bit about. Leopold the cat. If any of you ever volunteered at headquarters in horses, you have met Leopold. He was our sassy little cat. He would kind of warm up to you, wanting some cuddles from you, and then maybe give you a little nibble or a little scratch. He was a little sassy with us a lot too. He would wander around, especially during lunchtime. He wasn't a small cat, but he would try to go into stealth mode and hop up on the table and look right at you as he tried to steal your food. So he got in a lot of trouble sometimes. And like I said, he wasn't a small cat. So every once in a while we'd take him, carry him to the other end of Horsehaven and make him walk back. He had to burn a calorie here and there. He was never happy about that. So we did have somebody paint his picture on a stone for us. So now we take that stone and move it from room to room or desk to desk or to different offices, just so we can have him there causing trouble in spirit. Another favorite was Roy. He was definitely one of my favorites and a volunteer favorite. He loved people, loved being groomed, and of course, treats. He originally came to us from New York with a little bit of help from Mary Tyler Moore. So he came to us, he's pretty much a medical mess. He had horrible eyes, so he had to wear these big goggles to keep him from scratching his eyes all the time. He had really bad teeth. They were on an angle, so if you fed him, he would drool all over you when he tried to scratch his face on you. So that was a good attraction for people. He had neurological issues, bad feet, but a heart of gold, so he was one of my sweethearts. Hollywood. He had a job before he came to us. He worked at a track and he was a pony horse. So he had a really mild-mannered personality. He would take horses in and out of the track. Luckily, he ended up with us. So he became like a trainer horse to other horses here, teaching them how to be a horse, how to be a good horse. So that was a bonus for us that he helped us with training. But he was also one of the biggest scaredy cats we had here. I used to try to help one of our other horses learn to get used to his halters, so play the game touch like you do with a dog. You can play it with a horse as well. So I would do that. I'd go touch and give a treat, touch, give a treat. So Hollywood came walking over one day and he was like, oh, I want to play this game. So he came over and he did the touch. He went, oh my gosh, and ran. So he awesome horse. So hopefully he's up at the Rainbow Bridge helping train some horses up there. And another one, my favorite goat by far, and possibly favorite animal at the sanctuary, Miss Aries. She lived to be 17, and that far exceeded any expectation for life expectancy of a goat. And she, you could tell if she was having a good day, or at least I could. Other people would probably be offended. But if I go down and say, you good girl, and she tried to nip me in the face or nip me in the ear, it meant she was having a great day. So I love to have her do that to me. She didn't have a huge circle of people that she trusted. So it took me a little while to get her used to me petting her. And once I could pet her and get her to trust me, I was one of her buddies. I was in her circle. And there were a few other people that she loved as well. In her last days, I would make her special fruit salads, her little salads of just like lettuce and other veggies for her. And since her passing, I've adopted 5 goats. One of them being her daughter, Susie Q. Susie is nowhere near as sweet, definitely very sassy, but every now and then I can see that little glimmer of Aries in her. So thank you very much.
Hello, my name is Ellie. I work at the Parrot Garden. I'm going to list off our guys that we have been lucky enough to know, starting with Sasha, Jasmine, Rowena, Plankton, Daffodil, Mrs. Puff, Pancake and Buckhorn, and Lily. All of these guys came to us from many different situations, but what they all had in common was that they hated us all. And that's okay. We work with wild animals, and sometimes that means their happy place is not with us, it's with other birds. And we are so lucky to be able to take these birds who really had no choice in what happened to them in life and give them a space to be able to be themselves, to calm down, to live a stress-free life, to be with other birds, to find a mate, to learn how to bathe and shower and play with toys and make our life very difficult. And we're so lucky that we were able to provide these guys a home for them before they were crossing the Rainbow Bridge. I do want to mention a parrot that has passed away this month, who was with us for 17 years before being adopted in January of this year. His name is Clancy. If you've ever been to the Parrot Garden before at all in the last 17 years, you might have heard of him, Sugar and Clancy. His best friend and his mate is Sugar, and his favorite thing in the whole world was say, "Sugar, sugar, 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 I love sugar." And then Sugar would be there in the background going, "Ah!" the whole time. It was wonderful. If you speak to anyone who has worked at the Parrot Garden and say, "Oh, you know Sugar and Clancy," you are going to be met with an eye roll of, yes, the two birds that have made my life the most fun and difficult thing. They took many, many months to build a relationship with, at the same time being both staff and volunteer favorites for the fun, amazing personalities and all the enrichment that they brought to our lives. They went to an amazing home to a woman who's had 50 years of cockatoo experience, knew exactly what she was getting into with them, and she still told us, "I've never been bitten more in my whole life than in the 9 months that I have had Sugar and Clancy, and we have never felt more validated at the Parrot Garden than when she sent that to us." Our thoughts and best wishes are with Sugar right now, his mate, who is still adjusting to his loss. But we just want to thank everyone who helps give these guys an amazing home, just like Sugar and Clancy and their adopter Maureen and everyone else. And we've loved them here so you could love them later on. And just want to say thank you for that.
Hello, everyone, again. Now, so there was an old tradition that when I first started seeing the blessings with Mr. Dave and Faith, at some point of the blessing, they would read this poem, especially Faith would read it. But she would actually have everyone else in the audience read it with her. On your program, on the back side, you'll see a little poem back there. And thank you, Jess, for helping me find it. I think it's time that we bring this back, especially in honor of Mr. Dave and Faith and Joan as well. So if you're ready, we'll go ahead and read this all out loud together. I wrote your name in the sky, but the wind blew it away. I wrote your name in the sand, but the waves washed it away. I wrote your name on my heart, where it will stay forever. At this point, I also wanted to thank everyone who's watching at home. Thank you for all of the cards that were sent in online. There were thousands of them, so thank you very much for sending those in. They will be included, for the ones that were sent for the September blessing, will be included on the 1013 recording of this blessing. So if you're watching online, you will be able to see that later on next month. And also later on, we will have our annual burning of the cards. All these cards right here. We have our fire pit down over there. And, instead of just having these cards in some kind of storage unit collecting somewhere, we send them back into the earth. We have a special site that we do for them in Angels Rest in the garden area. You'll see 2000, 2001, or 2020, all those ones. And so we're going to add 2022 to it as well. So when you get a chance later on this month, if you're having to be around, you could actually see that up there. So at this point, I wanted to tell everybody, thank you. Now at this point, I will actually read some of the tribute cards we received for the blessing actually in the audience, the attendees. So Damien Dorota lost Rocky the German Shepherd. Tammy lost Taylor the Bunny. Norma lost Ruby Grace. Paul and Victoria lost Benson, Ken, and John. Diane lost Mr. Winston. Doug lost his Max. Carol lost Haiti, Dottie, Blanca, and Precious. Donna had lost Gizmo. Mary lost Jasmine. Linda had lost Herbert. Barbara had lost Parker and Ellie. Betsy lost Magic. Pam had lost William and Roni. Karen had lost Hey Jude. Deb had lost her Janie, Jersey, Hannah, and Hillary. Stephanie had lost Sky. Amy and Mitch lost Bandit, Smokey, and Lucy. Michael had lost Finnegan, Skiss, Sheba, and Countess. Barb had lost Rudy. Guadalupe had lost Peanut. Judith had lost Brody. Susie lost her Jake, Porter, and Lucy. Don had lost his Chummy and Scarlett. Mary lost Cody and Tigger. Camille had lost her Lacey. Wendy had lost Mochi, Cooper, and Rhodey. Nancy had lost Maggie, Gracie, Parker, Rick, and Kenny. Mary had lost her Libra, Sierra, Nora, Oreo, and Jazz. Valerie had lost Scooty and Fredo. Cheryl had lost her Cheyenne. Linda had lost her Bobby Bobcat. And Carolyn lost Tiger. Now, at this point, I'd like to offer a moment of silence for all our loved ones that we've lost for this month, either pets, animals, or people.
These angels that drop into our lives, these beings of pure love, wrapped in their own unique, quirky personalities, are a daily joy to cherish and bond with as we grow from two hearts into one. And then when they leave this world, we are left holding a full spectrum of feelings, from the hollowness in our hearts to the memories filled with joy, laughter, and playfulness. Even with this inevitable pain, wouldn't you agree, it's a journey we would repeat in a heartbeat? I just want to draw attention before we close to the beautiful tributes that all of our staff here shared with all of us. And that gives you a glimpse into the immensity of their hearts. So I know it's unusual to applaud in a situation like this, but I would love us all to offer our love back to them and give them a big hand for what they do. Thank you all for coming. Thank you for loving the animals as we do. Thank you for helping us to make a difference, to make this a better world for animals. One more thing I want to say is as you leave, there are little rocks. Feel free to take one. You may have noticed at Angel's Rest, on some of the placements, actually every one of them, there's several rocks. The way that began was many years ago when I was managing and doing the work that Josh now does. There were these two incredible women that came from San Francisco area with their cat. And they called me ahead and said, can we bring a memorial stone that we'd like to create for her? I said, absolutely. So when you walk through Angel's Rest, you go through the gate, you go to the right to the next garden, you'll see a great, beautiful black granite stone to Chipora, Princess of Calico. They placed a few stones on her beautiful stone when we tucked her in. And I asked, that hadn't happened yet. I asked, is there a tradition that you're honoring with placing this stone there? And they said, yes. It is a Jewish tradition to leave a stone every time you visit your loved one at their site. And then I remembered seeing that at the end of the movie, Schindler's List. And I realized how powerful that is. So we shared that with people when they started to come and place their animals. We brought little stones for them to place. Now when you walk through, you'll see there's one site that we had to build a barrier around 6 inches high to hold the stones that this one man was bringing for his precious little one. But that's what you'll see throughout Angel's Rest. Feel free to take a rock or more and just let your heart take you to place one wherever you would like to. Again, thank you for coming. We love you. We cherish you. We're so grateful for everything that you make possible in being part of our family to save these precious lives. And have a wonderful evening, travel home safely, and stay well. Thank you.